And we do want to check in closer to the scene, not just so much from our vantage point, but we want to check in with WTOC's own Cutter Martin, who is down by the scene with the latest. Cutter?
Hey guys, we're live here, Island Expressway, President Street, just to the east of General McIntosh Boulevard and to the west of East Boundary. Between those two intersections, now an infamous, a very familiar sight for anyone scrolling through Facebook, watching local news this afternoon. New development construction not yet completely finished, fully engulfed in flames. But the old school logic, dark smoke, black smoke, bad, white smoke, good. In this case, that appears to be the progress of the Savannah Fire Department, likely others as well. Again, a lot more white smoke. They are making headway into this fire, but something I want to draw attention to, we're going to go up and we're going to go out. Notice how far this plume of smoke travels. We're talking miles and miles and miles because of that gusty wind that has delivered this sunshine, this low humidity, and the cooler temperatures. That wind a problem for firefighters. I was just a few hundred yards down President Street near that intersection, East Boundary over there, and there were spot fires forming. Literally within this plume of smoke, there were small embers falling, hitting dry grass. I know it's been rainy, but the humidity is low today, and causing new fires at the base of some power lines down there. Thankfully, Savannah police on scene very quickly putting that fire out, but goes to show this is a really expansive scene, and all the more reason to avoid this area, why Savannah police have closed a portion of this area. So really an evolving situation, one where emergency responders are especially challenged due to the weather. It's gorgeous to us, but not the best for them. They're having to not only battle the fire that's ongoing, but be on the lookout for spot fires within the path of this plume of smoke. Something else we're watching here, the structure of this building and the crane that is on the other side of it. Again, as the structure of this fire changes, as the wind pushes more smoke out, we're now noticing a very large crane, a very large metal structure there at the base of this building. Just speculation, kind of saying what I'm seeing here, but at the base of that was a very large fire. So that structure of even the large crane there could be compromised depending on the signs of the fire, the heat of the fire, and exactly where that fire was within the building. So certainly, as the fire evolves, as the weather evolves here locally, kind of a changing situation and something to be abreast to here this afternoon. But crews obviously working very, very hard, tirelessly, all up and down Islands Expressway for several hundred yards to keep this under control, despite the inclement, may not seem like it, but inclement conditions they are facing out here with the wind and with the low humidity. Guys, we're on scene. Much of the WTOC crew is out here. We'll keep you updated here from the east side of downtown.
Thanks, Cutter, for that. Like he said, he is keeping a close eye. Those winds in particular, you can just see how far that plume of smoke was traveling when he panned over to that direction. I know it's certainly a factor as firefighters are working diligently. And
you get a much better view of that from down over there on President Street, just to see how much that wind is really just transporting the clouds and that plume of smoke from the northwest down to the southeast. So as Cutter mentioned, it'll be a few miles away from this area down into the President Street area, northern areas of the Truman, even past that. Savannah Country Club, I believe, is a golf club, is down over in that area as well. It might be getting some smoke moving into your area, and some of the embers. Again, we're going to be concerned about that. Even though we have been seeing the rain, we do have some low humidity in the area today.
I think that was kind of the surprising part, to see that the embers had actually sparked a little bit of fire away from the scene with the grass, even though we have had that rain. But it doesn't take much to get a brush fire going in really many different types of conditions. So please be aware of that, especially if you are in the downtown area or you live in the downtown area. Now, we've been talking about the Eastern Wharf project, and we want to let you know that just in May of 2019, last year, Savannah Fire conducted an emergency training drill at the Eastern Wharf construction site. Their mission basically was to become familiar with the construction project in case of emergencies in this area. In fact, take a listen from what they said that day of the training.
On a regular basis, Savannah Fire comes and checks out new construction so that our companies are aware of what's going on, the dangers that are out there. Pretty much any situation that we find that there's a potential for injury and harm to someone, we have teams that are specialized to cover those rescues.
They train for situations like this, and they hope that they never have to use that training and put it into place. But They, even just last year, were trying to get themselves ready in case something would happen out there. And there we see those flames sparking up again and just shooting through there every time you think that there might be some relief or just seeing smoke and hoping that the flames would be dying out. We see another large plume blow up through that ceiling.
Yeah, you never know what's over inside that building there, still under construction. There could be a lot of, construction equipment or, building supplies that could be very highly flammable. And unfortunately, this is what's going to be catching on fire until they get it under control.
Just to know that Savannah Fire was out there in May doing a training exercise, it might bring a level of comfort knowing that at least they're familiar with this structure. They've been out there, obviously before it caught fire to familiarize themselves with just the site itself. Probably the water access was a part of that training exercise so they could understand what exactly they would need while they were out there fighting that fire. So what you're looking at is the Eastern Wharf project. This is the side closest to the Marriott. It's a 5-story structure. We're just getting information in. This is from Savannah Fire Department saying that the construction is, or the fire rather, is believed to have begun on the 5th floor of that construction site. Of course, the top floors are wood materials from what we've been able to see, just having been familiar of that area. And then also you can see in these pictures, we've got the Savannah Fire Department pulled up right now with their latest statement about how they believe or where they believe this structure fire began. And we've been watching this for about a little over an hour now since the calls started coming into the newsroom, and we were able to pop up the sky camera and start recording some of that video. And if you look at what we've seen back then to now, which we have live video up on the screen, you can just see it's almost unrecognizable, that structure in particular. When I tell you it's 5 stories, you really couldn't tell looking at this. It looks like the middle part is just completely burned out. There's so much smoke moving through that area, you can hardly even tell what's there at this point. That's a better look there. We can get the vantage point.
Well, as you mentioned, that's what the Savannah Fire believes. It started on the 5th floor of this project, but right now there isn't even a 5th floor to look at in some of those areas, and it looks like a 4th floor was already not point that we've seen on this building. So do be aware of that. Stay out of the area. The Eastern Wharf Hotel construction site that is down by General McIntosh Boulevard and President Street. Please, please stay away from that area. We know it's easy for people to want to go down to the site, but please stay away as crews are continuing to work this fire.
And the smoke, as you can see, is going to be a concern out there. It's billowing up into the sky, not too far straight upward because we got some brisk northwest winds. So as soon as it tries to go up into the atmosphere, it's pushed from northwest down to the southeast. So if you're watching anywhere on the east side over there on President Street, getting near the Truman Parkway, at least the north end of the Truman Parkway, and anywhere east of that, that's where that smoke is going to be moving. And it could be going for a couple miles or so before it starts to dissipate a little bit.
Yeah, you see those big billowing black-filled clouds moving out of this and heading down and heading towards the eastern side, as you can see. And we do want to reiterate that we have not been told of any type of evacuations in this area, but police and other emergency personnel do need the area cleared as possible so they can move in with vehicles, not trying to get anybody out of there, but please do be aware and obviously use common sense as you are looking at this flame and just trying to allow these emergency personnel into the zone.
And I want to be sure that they're probably a little bit concerned about the embers, the debris coming from that fire as it goes up in the air with those winds could be transported even away from where the fire is going on right now. And meteorologist Carter Barton was talking about had a couple of fires started near some electrical wires. So that's something that could be a concern. Now, even though we had a lot of rain out there, very low humidity in here today, and especially with that wind, if you get any type of spark, that wind could help fuel those flames out there. So they're a little bit concerned about that. Make sure, again, you do avoid this area completely.
And we're about 5 minutes away from the city's live press conference where we're hoping to learn more information about, what police have had a heavy presence out there. So is the fire department. We're hoping to get more information from them about maybe what they think started this structure fire, when the call came in, and also words out to you and the community about how this could affect your evening commute. I mean, this has been going on for over an hour now, and as you can tell from some of those shots we were showing, the flames are just as intense as they were probably about an hour ago, just moved to a different part of the building.
Well, I was going to say definitely in about an hour, hour and a half, we'll be moving into that afternoon traffic zone, so please be aware of this situation. If you are at work, a lot of people in the downtown area might have their TV on right now watching us, so please do be aware of that. See if you can find an alternate way home or stay with us as the police are hopefully getting this fire under control. And the firefighters as well on the scene, hopefully getting everything under control, and they'll be the ones in charge of directing that traffic. But we do know East Bay Street between East Broad and President Street is blocked because of this fire.
And unfortunately, the winds are going to remain rather brisk in here today. Forecast is really looking at a 15-mile-per-hour wind, pretty persistent here throughout the afternoon. If you've been outside, you felt that wind, and that'll help keep the smoke, debris, the flames away from the Marriott and the downtown area near River Street, and kind of move it over near the northern end of the Truman Parkway and anywhere east of that. You can see it, and it's continuing to blow pretty quickly out there with those northwesterly winds.
And we want to now give you a live look from the scene. Our Mariah Congito is standing by with more information at the scene of the Eastern Wharf. She's across the street. That's where we have everyone stationed in a safe position. Mariah, what can you tell us?
So since we've been here, it's been at least about 25 or so minutes. And the fire originally, when we got here, took up the entire top of the building. Right now, it seems to be focused more on that upper right side as we're showing you. Again, that seems to be continuing up on that right upper side. Again, it was the whole top of the building when we got here just about 20 or 25 minutes ago. But it's still very, very active. The smoke is still, as you can tell, coming right off of that top right of the building. We actually heard from Savannah Fire that they believe it began on the 5th floor of the building. We do not know, we have not heard at least any information about how it did start, but we do know it was on that 5th floor of the building. Again, you can tell on that upper right-hand side of the building, and crews are still pouring that water onto even the left side of the building too. They're still very active over there. And there's a helicopter that has been circling around, kind of hovering the top area of the building. We don't know if that's a medical helicopter or what. But again, that helicopter has been circulating, but the fire still very strong. You can still feel the heat even from across the street here on East President Street. And as far as traffic goes, they have completely shut down East President Street, both going into town and away from town. So again, if you're even in the area, just completely avoid that area because again, it's completely shut down. It was not even 25 minutes ago, but now completely shut down by both police and fire crews that are still actively working on this scene. We do know again that it did start on that 5th floor. That's according to the Savannah Fire, but we don't know of any injuries or if anyone was in the building when it happened or again the cause. But there is a media briefing that is about to start here in just the next few minutes. We have our crew over there working to get that information for us, so as soon as we have it, we will pass that along to you guys. But again, this fire is still very active, and it's only focused on that upper right of the building as opposed to when it was on that whole top level. The heat still very strong, the smoke still billowing out. And I know Cutter Martin showed us a little bit about how those embers are actually causing some spot fires down the street, but we haven't heard any word on those either. But I know he did touch upon that, just carrying from the wind. But again, we don't know of any injuries or how this started. It was on the 5th floor, though, according to Savannah Fire. So that media briefing is starting in just a few minutes. We'll have more information, as that briefing is getting started here again in a few minutes. So we will pass that information along as soon as we get it. For now, Mariah Congito, WTOC News.
All right, Mariah, thank you for that report. Like she said, we're about a minute away from when that city press conference is about to begin. So we will be going back to that at some point to give you as updated as information as we can about what they are sharing with the public at this time. You could hear behind Mariah that helicopter circling the area. It's one of those recognizable one. It's the bright yellow helicopter that I've seen for mosquito control, and I'm not sure what their role is involved in this. Maybe even giving another vantage point as firefighters on the ground are trying to determine which direction it's moving or if they can get any clarity as to.
That would make sense, yeah.
As a little bit of a guidance for them as they direct their water onto that fire. But here we got This is from Chatham Parkway that we're seeing right now from our Skycam, and you can see how big this fire is and how far it is billowing out and where the sight line of the fire is. Again, the Eastern Wharf project site was a site for apartment buildings that they were going to be having in the downtown area, and as we see those flames billowing up, this is a live look. This is actually live, folks. This is not video. This is what's happening now, and they've been out there for over an hour now fighting these flames, and it is still going strong here at the Eastern Wharf project site in downtown Savannah off of General McIntosh Boulevard and President Street, and they continue to put as much water in trying to douse those flames, but right now it seems those flames have been whipping across the building and moving from one side to the other.
It's just unbelievable to see how intense the flames are. It's hard to get a vantage point when you're looking at it above, but my goodness, it's just a raging, massive inferno at this point. This is a construction site, so there's no telling what kinds of things are out there that are fueling this fire as they're working to contain it. No doubt the wind is playing a factor in this, as our Dave Turley was telling us. Tell us more about those winds.
You can see the wind right there moving the trees and the smoke and pretty much anything out there. It's a northwest wind, and it's still a little brisk out there, as you can see, 15 miles per hour or so. And look at that. We can even see that from the Savannah Hilton Head International Airport, the smoke rising up, and that's quite a bit of distance away from the downtown area.
Basically from Pooler.
Yeah.
Looking at that
Wow.
and seeing how far of a distance that is to the eastern of Bay Street in downtown Savannah. And there we're seeing those flames where we keep getting different, but you can see that cord whipping in the air, that tension cord that they have out there, and that is blowing very much in the wind, and as you can see, that's how that fire is helping to push across that building.
And from that point right there, you see that little, where the road is behind them, they're doing a little circle. That's the northern end of the Truman as you're getting on to the Truman to go southbound, I believe, and even coming off the exit as well. So it looks like, thankfully, most of the smoke is not impacting the traffic over there on the Truman. It's more north of the Truman, and I think there's like new apartment complexes and stuff all down over in that area, and construction, which is going to be impacted by the debris plume of that fire.
And you can just see, I mean, this is a live look, folks. I mean, this is just as intense the flames were as they were about an hour ago when this all began and we started tuning in. It's just moved from that corner of the building. You can see closest to the street. We were told that the fire started on the top floor there. That's where Savannah Fire has confirmed that's where the fire began, on the 5th floor. And it has steadily moved through that entire building. As Dave mentioned, the winds, you can get another vantage point here. This is from drone video that we took earlier today. You can just see how massive that fire is and what firefighters are really up against out there, as they work to contain this.
And then you get a little bit better view of what's actually around the building out there as well. So you got quite a bit of distance to get down to other structures there east of that building where a lot of the smoke and embers and debris will be moving down to. So that's definitely a little bit better than what we were looking at earlier, a little better view of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and it really gives you a vantage point of the Eastern Wharf project. We could probably go back to one of these overview looks, but where the fire is occurring is on the western side of that property, closest to the Marriott. And then you saw in one of those vantage points that we had for the drone shot, there was, you could tell some townhomes that are being built. Now it's a bit of distance away. That's where the other side of the construction is, kind of on the eastern end, and it looks like there's quite enough distance between those two where that's not even an issue for them. So they've got access from at least 3 sides of the building, firefighters do, in order to try to contain this.
I would think they're going to not be concerned about the flame itself, but I would say probably a little bit of concern about the floating embers. And Cutter Martin was mentioning earlier that they had a couple spot fires with the debris, the embers going into the air and being transported with those brisk northwest winds. So still going to keep our eyes on that. It looks like anywhere to the east side there of the Eastern Wharf project.
And I know that there is a live press conference, we're told, that got underway close to about 1:45. We have several folks out there. Our meteorologist Cutter Martin's out there providing information. Maria Congito's out there. We also have a photographer out there, Jonathan Godwin, who got some of that drone footage that you had seen earlier, trying to get information. Hopefully we're going to learn The city of Savannah about how this all began and what they're doing, and you know, I'm curious to hear. I know there's no way to know how long something like this can burn, but I mean, we're now kind of on the edge of the afternoon commute here as folks are headed out or thinking about their way home from work, how this could impact their evening commute.
Yeah, and it almost looks like the fire has kind of shifted from that was an apartment complex now.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying that it's an apartment complex to the backside or whatever that parking structure is, and it's still very much on fire out there. Very good blaze, unfortunately.